Welcome. So if you're looking at this video, I can safely assume that you have downloaded the Smarten installer or are in the process of downloading the installer. So a quick word on Smarten. Smarten is an enterprise-scale advanced analytics platform which does amazing things, including assisted predictive modeling and self-serve data preparation. Uh, Assisted predictive modeling and self-serve data preparation allows you to do extremely complex analytics without writing a single line of code. And the platform also includes dashboarding as well as APIs. And what you are going to get as an installer is a complete uh, enterprise scale, no holds barred a platform. So you can install it on a server as well as your desktop, and it will give you full enterprise scale features. So this is the moment you finish installing, you will have the Windows installer on your download folder or the folder you have chosen, and you simply double click it and you get rolling onto a Windows installer. There might be a pop-up from Windows requesting you permission to run the installer. A few quick clicks of the next button would let you get into the installing process. And one of the screens where we might request your patience would be when we install the services which will be necessary to run Smarten. It might take a few seconds more than you expect, and that's it. And then it will install and open up into the default screen, and your login and password would be admin. And once you log in, you can move on to using a complete enterprise scale business intelligence as well as advanced analytics platform. So let's log in with admin as the username, admin as the password, and we get to the main screen where we have the opportunity to navigate to the different modules in Smarten. And the key components are connecting to the data sets, so the databases or the data sources, preparing the data and doing some cleansing operations as well as transformation and blending, visualize data, model and predict data, and consume it on a dashboard, crosstab, or a geo map, something which is visible in the background. So what I'm going to do with the next few minutes or so is I'm going to take you on a step-by-step journey to connect and prepare data, which is the key aspect of using Smarten. I'm not going to go into each and every feature, but I'll try to cover the features which I think make a difference and can get you started very quickly. So I'm just going to show you what the screen looks like. Here, this is this a source identification screen where you can choose text, XLS, let's say Excel files, XML, JSON, SQL Server, or any of the databases, Google Analytics, SAP, RScript, and go into the next screen. But before I jump into the next screen, let me show you a bit about what we are doing. So here, these are the data sources. So they could be a text file, one could be an RDBMS, one could be an Excel file. You can use data from each of these sources and make data sets. From these data sets, you can make different objects using one or multiple data sets. And from each of these objects can be into predictive modeling, and from this data set can go into predictive modeling, as well as you can use it to create objects which can be used in multiple dashboards. Right, so let's start by connecting or creating a data source. I'm going to call it the demo CSV data source, and I'm going to find a file on my desktop, and I'm going to go next on that. And as you can see is that it has basically given me a snapshot of what type of data is there in this source, and I'll say okay, and it will ask me that this data source has been saved successfully. Do you want to create a data set out of this? And I choose yes to that, and we create the demo data set CSV out of that. So this is the data source which we have created, and there we bring in the data. So this is a sample preview, data preview of the data set. If there are multiple columns or multiple fields, as if it's an RDBMS, you can search from here. You can choose to select all, unselect a few, and then go into the next screen, which creates the data set. So this is how the data set screen looks like. This is more like an Excel screen where we can do multiple operations to transform, clean, and make the data available for analytics. So data source in this particular case was a text source. It can be an RDBMS, it could be anything else. And we have created one data set at the moment out of that. Okay, so let's go back to this. And it has extracted the complete data, and it has identified this column as a dimension for year, this one as state, this one million metric tons as a integer, it's a a double. Then I just want to, in case if you want to change a column to a particular dimension, you can mark this as a time dimension, year, quarter, month, whatever, I mean, you would possibly want to. So this entire screen is based on using your right click effectively. So before I go further, I'm going to publish this data set. And to publish this data set means that you basically save it into Smarten and you make it available to users to make analytics out of it, to do predictive analytics, smart visualization, as well as to make some dashboards if required. So you can publish it real time or in cache, and you can basically keep it active in the refresher interval, and set up the refresher schedule, whether it's active or it's inactive. Publish it. It will ask you whether you want to give it any user rights. We at the moment don't want to, so we just publish it and that's done. It's published and ready to go. So now, I mean, I'm just going to show you what are the possibilities, that are available in the menu items. There is no coding, as I did mention earlier. So here you can identify missing values, inconsistent values, duplicate column with this column. Also, for example, I can just say add a column here, and I will basically call this delete column, and I will say it's got the state. I can verify this expression. This has got a complete expression builder, all the functions which you would possibly need to create complex columns. So here, this delete field, incidentally, has been created. I can mark this too as a geo dimension state. Okay, but we don't want this two columns, so I can basically find out, highlight duplicate columns with this column, and it will identify this, and I can say remove this column, and you will be able to remove this column. Now, other thing which you can do, like, I mean, you can just, if rows with null, there are none in this data set, so I'm not going to kind of run this operation here, but rows with all zeros, columns with nulls, columns with all zeros, unique values. You can quickly check the unique values here. Say, for example, 2016 is a unique value, 15 these are years, so I just click this and I delete this. And after I have deleted 2016, I obviously have discovered my grave mistake and I would like to undo it. You can go into the action editor, which is the gear sign with the arrow, and you can kind of undo that operation and you get the 2016 back. You can filter and reach the data you want. Say, for example, you want, or let me say, if I go here and I say, you can transform it into uppercase just for the heck of it. Okay, and then, I mean, if you want to get it back, you can just undo this. Now, you can copy this column. Now, sort, ascending, descending, transform, I just mentioned. I've demonstrated about adding, filling, splitting, merging columns, filtering the values, You can edit this particular row. So I mean, if you would choose to edit this row, you will have to make sure that you have a unique value in the data set. We are not going to do that, but it's possible to do almost all activities that you would need to uh, do an extraction, transformation, uh, merging, changing, editing operation in a data set in an Excel type of an environment. Now, so this is the base data set which I have created. Now I want to bring in data which is there from my, say, the transaction database or something which I have created earlier. And I choose to, say, select the data which is demo with sales data and bring it in. Now, this particular data set, which I have created by using some data from a transaction database and some data from external sources, has got year, state, rainfall, GDP, GDP per capita, population, uh, sales positions opened, that is vacancies, and stuff like that. I want to join these two. So you can blend append, but we're going to join. So you just select this, and here we basically automatically identify uh, the fields or the columns which would have values which are likely to be matching so as to make a join. You can add a condition and make a join. We're not going to do that, but everything that you possibly would do in a database or even in something more complex than like an ETL tool would be possible here. So I'm going to apply this, and based on that you will be able to get a joint database. So this is demo data set CSV now has got two data sets which are joined together. And I can see the record count. I can enable the record count from here. I can switch to full data mode. I can even see the lineage diagram. So it kind of goes to show what actions I have done. And at any given point of time, if I want to choose to undo any of the actions, I can do that. Once this is set up, you can set up a dimension map. I'm not going to do that now, but it's not very difficult. You can just create it by selecting the columns and bringing it onto the other side. You can export this data if you choose to. It's possible to export it into CSV at the moment, and well, you can start using this for analysis. So what we have done, we have got two data sources. One was already in the system, which was from a transaction. One data source was the CSV file we created, and we have created one data set out of it, which has got sales data. And in the next section, what we are going to do is we are going to do some smart visualization and see how that is useful in Smarten. Okay, so we're going to do some smart visualization. Uh, so let me go into the Smarten view. Which while I'm doing it, let me just explain that this menu item lets you look at your favorites, folders, repository, data, and once you click on new, you can go into either a crosstab, tabular, graph, geomap, KPI group, dashboard, Smarten view, which is the smart visualization, data source, which we created in the earlier section of this demonstration, data set, and Smart Insight, which is the predictive model. Okay, so Smart Insight is the assisted predictive modeling, and Smarten View is the smart visualization. So here we go. All right, now, so what are we going to do now? So you're going to select the data set on which you are going to do the visualization. So one of the things, well, I mean, what is the objective of smart visualization? Two objectives. One is to create a graph which you can put in your dashboards or other analysis so that it gives you some interpretation of data. Other is to drag and drop fields into a space and think about your data as to in what way your data is moving, so that you can choose the right fields when you are doing any other type of analysis. So let me just select, say for example, sales demo data. Right. So this is a demo data set which is built in and would be there with the setup which was installed when you downloaded and ran the setup. Okay. So here what we're going to do is that I'm just going to show you how this works. So I take the state here, and then I say I basically put the sales quantity. It will automatically detect that I've mentioned this, the state is a geo tag, so it will basically plot a map. Then you can change the settings here. You can kind of enable Google Maps, or maybe disable Google Maps. You can show markers, show data values, apply, and there it basically does whatever is required. You can put the measures in buckets. Okay. Or you can do data operations like sales quantity. You can do sum, average, effective average, count. So if it was some kind of a field where the count would have mattered, you could have taken count. You could do top bottom analysis. Okay. So basically, say for example, I can say top 5, and I can add this and apply this. So you can also do sorting here on the state, and these are the different possibilities. What I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to remove state, and I'm going to I'm going to remove the quantity also, and I'm going to look at, say, in each of the state, what was the product category which moved rather well. So which product categories have been moving in a particular state? I mean, so this is the kind of graph which will be created. And I want to see further as to which was the employee who was involved in this activity. Okay, so we can see that alcoholic drinks, all these people have been doing sales. Same thing you can check with the other product lines. You can change this. You can basically kind of move this and put, say for example, I can remove the state, and then I can put, say, uh, maybe the year, and I can put gross sales and apply. So then it is going to make a chord chart which will allow you to see as to which sale over what period. So in 2018, the thickness of the chord would indicate what the intensity of the quantity, the strength of the quantity. So higher the quantity, obviously the thickness would increase. So it obviously is visible in 2018. Tea wasn't doing so well. So let's find out which state did what. So say for example, in alcoholic drinks, almost all of the years have been okay, but in tea, oh well, all have not been doing well. So I mean, one can get a sense of how the data is. One can do much more with this. One can say, for example, put sales quantity here, and you will basically, based on each product category, you will have the sales, or if you just choose to have sales quantity and the value, you will obviously get a graph like this. Okay. Now I just want to do a quick demonstration of the same type of things with the data set that we created. It won't take more than a few minutes. So I have shown you whatever is possible here. Also, I just want you to get a sense of the menu items on the top. Saving would make this graph available in future to in any possible area. So say for example, I want to save this. I need to have a folder. You can save it in your folder. That doesn't give access to other people, but you can save it in, say, this business folder, and I will call this demo graph, and I can give the title as demo Smarten view, and I'll say okay to it. It will get stored in a business folder here. All right, so once that is done, this graph becomes available for reuse. You can change it and save it, and it would refresh in the dashboards wherever you have used. This is the settings. So there are multiple settings which can be done. These are some of the things which you might have to look at in detail in the manual, or give a call to our support, or send a mail to our support. So these are computations and additional PDF setups and stuff like that which are available here. You can also group. You can do data operations. You can add a filter. You can add a page filter. So this is how you create a filter. So say I'm going to create a filter called demo filter, and I'm going to call it product. So let's not do that product category, but let's say state is equal to Arizona can be in filter. I can add it, and I can say okay, and say I want to say okay, apply this filter, and the entire data set is going to get filtered for this particular state. So in the same way, you can have global variables which are set for computation. You can have retrieval parameters. You can obviously export this into a JPEG, PDF, and stuff like that. So that's a quick way of kind of taking this into an image file, and you based on that, it will create a JPEG file. I'm not going to open that. You can restore, refresh, and now finally let me do a small Smarten view using the demo CSV data that we created. So this is the similar type of stuff, but I'm going to do some thinking here. So I'm going to think, I'm going to put year. I'm going to look at the measures here, and I want to find out how the sales moved. So basically, let's me find out here. This is the sales. So over the years, this is how the sales have moved. Okay, now let's just quickly check how has been the GDP per capita when the sales has moved in this particular fashion. And you would see that the flattening of the sale here and the GDP per capita was, a little bit in parallel. There was a downward trend here. But what did we do to kind of handle this situation? So if we would have realized that the GDP is not headed in the right direction, did we recruit more people? Did we do anything of that sort? Let's find out that. So basically, I will remove GDP per capita, and I'll put in the say vacancy and see what's happening there. Vacancy has actually kept on increasing. So I mean, that was not the remedial action. Maybe we did more advertisement. In fact, looks like the advertisement spend during that period had flattened, and the gap was very high at the point the GDP also was moving, okay, downwards. So, one can look at this, then I can say add the gap in the wholesale stockist, whether that came down. So it would give a bar chart like this, but you can change it to any other graph which is available here. So say for example, I can change it to a line graph here. Since the vacancies and the values are a little bit inconsistent, it's difficult to kind of make a sensible graph. So it will be better if I remove the advertisement spend. And now we can see that, oh, okay, so I have removed okay, I'll remove the wholesale stockist gap. Okay, let's keep the wholesale stockist gap. Okay, so the stockist gap and the sales. So I mean, this has also kept on increasing consistently. So while I mean, like I mentioned, you can change this into multiple graphs like heat maps and bar charts and radar charts and stuff like that to create a graph which you can put to use in a dashboard. But what did we realize from this particular instance was that our advertising spend, the GDP per capita, and things like that did have an impact on sales. So in the next section, what we are going to do is we're going to use the advanced analytics or Smarten's assisted predictive modeling to look at this data. So let's now hop into a new Smarten insight. We're going to do, so these are the different options which are available. Uh, and one of the unique things about Smarten is that everything which you would possibly want to know for predictive modeling is described in plain English across the application. So wherever you are in the platform, all you need to do is read the description, and I'm going to do one for an example. Forecasting. Forecast values for future based on past values with one or more variables affecting future values. Example, forecast product sales based on past sales, inflation, and GDP growth. Other use cases, products and service demanding forecasting, inventory management, GDP forecasting, tourism forecasting, stuff like that. So what it is, it's basically forecasting values based on past values. All right, so that's the criteria here. So each of these things have got its own use, and all you need to read this and get a sense as to what you need to do. What we are going to do now is we're going to do regression, and then we're going to do one clustering. But there are these various options which are available which will allow you to do amazing things, right from predicting who's going to default on a loan, to predicting which lead is hot, which you to kind of making a plan to select the range of customers which are to be targeted to increase the sales, to identifying slow moving stock, to identifying the SKUs which you need to keep up in stocks. So huge possibility. So we're going to do a regression, and we're going to select the data which we created. So a demo data set, and the target variable here is obviously the sales. Okay, and when we were doing the smart visualization, we did realize that GDP per capita had an impact. So we just want to show that reconfirm this. Though we cannot control this GDP per capita in our business, but it does have an impact. We want to check out how much impact does it have. The population we're not taking, we're taking the wholesale stockist or the stockist gap, the vacancy, and the advertisement spend. You can take variables like rainfall and stuff like that if it does matter in a particular business. Then we are going to run this algorithm. Now it will automatically select the best suitable algorithm for the data which we have selected and which we have pushed into Smart. So at this current moment, it will basically run this through, give you an R squared, which is an indicator of how effective this regression has been. So closer to 1, the more effective it is, and it will describe in plain English as to what is the outcome. So there are two components or three components in the outcome. I'll close this. I'll show you a more a complete view of the same text. So it will have variables which have an impact on the target variable, variables which do not have an impact, and variables which have a positive impact and variables which have a negative impact. It also calculates the coefficients. So it will let you know that per unit change in per GDP per capita would increase the sales by how much. So this kind of makes your assessment of planning or your assessment of any activity based on multiple variables very effective. So here you can see that it's chosen multilinear regression for this particular instance, and it does it on its own. You can kind of, so this is the button which will give you the entire description. The one next to it gives a model summary. Okay, so it will let you know if the model is a good fit or a model is not so fitting. Okay, you can take the data which you have used for analysis with the predicted values and export it into XLS. You can change the settings here and say, for example, this is sampling of data, so we can disable this sampling, and this now will be applied for the entire data set. There will be a marginal impact if you choose the entire data set, and you can eventually apply this model and query that. Say, for example, we are saying that the GDP per capita is going to change by this much, the gap in stockist is going to be this much, the vacancy is going to be very low, and advertisement is going to be 4 crores. And then if I apply the model, uh, you can see that the predicted value of sales for that particular period shows up. Okay, so this is how this particular regression model works. One of the important things you need to know is that the smiley face, where it shows up at the result of any analytics in Smarten, is an indicator that things have worked out well and your data is matching the model which has been applied. And a frown or a flat face does mean that you need to change the variables you have used in the data. Now let's look at something else. Like let's go back to the main menu. You can save this, by the way. I didn't save it, but you could save it and reuse it. So the next data set which we are going to use is a database which has got a large number of uh, SKUs. So I just will open that data before I kind of go into the analysis. Okay, so I'm going to select the data and open it for you. So what has it got? It's got an SKU number or SKU number, indicator of what this could be any product. You could add a product description. What is the average sales? Now there are different discounts you have given for different festivals, like say maybe Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Diwali or Eid or something like that. So these are the discounts which have been given in a festival and the effective sale during that festival. Now, if you have a very large number of SKUs, you would not like to discount everything during the festival. You would like to discount those products which have an immediate impact on sales. So say for example, if you are going to sell candles, you would like to sell it on a particular festival. And based on, if you have a say 500,000 products, you need to choose what you want to discount. So this is a use case for that. And also you would not like to know which products move when you advertise on a particular television channel. So these are television channels: Z, NDTV, Sony, and a cricket channel. So I've not put I could have put and a soap or a particular instance on that television where the advertisement was run, but I've chosen to just put the name of the channel. So this is the data set we are going to use for clustering. So I'm going to do say new Smarten Insight, and I'm going to do clustering. Okay, just let me read out what's clustering. So clustering: split data into groups when pre-assigned categories or classes are not available, as compared with classification where pre-assigned categories or classes are available. Example: segmenting online customers into heavy, moderate, low purchaser groups based on purchasing frequency, average person amount, income, age, stuff like that. So other use cases: customer segmentation, grouping based on purchasing behavior, demography, geography. But we are going to do a clustering for products to be discounted. So here I'm going to select the different festivals, and you want to run it for the entire data set. And here it goes. It's going to do the detection on its own, select the right algorithm, and voila, I'm sure it's going to come up with some exciting results. So there it is. And it has created two clusters. In the first cluster of products, so this cluster is for a product, a group of products, and Festival 2 is the most effective period for discounting the cluster 1 product, right? Cluster 2 group of products, Festival 1 and Festival 4 is the best time to discount them. Now, we can say that that's nice, but I need some more details. So maybe what you can do is fine tune the parameters, switch off the auto mechanism, and say you want 4 clusters and apply that. And now it's going to run the same algorithm once again and refresh the data to give you 4 clusters. So here we have 4 clusters. You can again look at the description. So in this particular case, we can see that this cluster 1, most of the festivals look okay, but one should be careful of festival 3 because there is actually no movement there. So this would possibly mean that you can plan for more stocks for these products, maybe even plan a discount, but definitely not for this festival 3. Same thing, if we can look at cluster 2, well, again festival 3 seems to have fallen flat, but cluster festival 2 is doing well. Cluster 3, Festival 2 has done exceptionally well, and this could be a cluster which you need to focus during this festival. And say in cluster 4, Festival 1 and Festival 4 seem to have done exceptionally well. So you can look at the details of this cluster, and also you can export the data set. You can apply like we did last time. I mean, it's just kind of clicking the button here, and you can export it with the result for additional analysis. You can see the detailed information about the cluster plot, and this applies for all predicted algorithms. So it will give you a description of what this is all about. Okay. You can change the data fields here. Say, for example, if I want to remove these festivals and just focus on the advertisements, I can uh, take the television advertisements and then run the same algorithm once again on the same data set, requesting for a clustering based on the effectiveness of the television ads. And here it is. So you can see that, let me close this and give you a detailed view. Uh, so say for example, cluster 4 works well with NDTV and Sony. Cluster 3 works with Z. Cluster 2 does not work with Z, works average with the rest of the bunch. And cluster 1 works with Z again. So one can get a sense as to what products move when you are advertising on a particular channel. So this, and you right. So before I forget, I mean, let me save this. So I'm going to save it into my folder, and I'm going to call it the demo insight. And I say okay. Okay. All right. So well, what we do in the next session is look at the use of different objects in a dashboard. Okay, so far what we have done is we have created data sources, made data sets, and gone into predictive modeling and have done a couple of predictive analytics. We have also created a couple of graphs and stored them. Okay, so now there is a quick introduction to where this data is stored and how this data is stored, and then we will look at the dashboards, uh, which we can use for monitoring and visualizing and analyzing data. So let's go back to our control. So one of the important things is that you can go into the administration here, and which allows you to set up users and kind of administer the application. That's a little comprehensive. So if you need any additional information about the administration, then I think it would be a good idea to send us a request on support. It's not complicated. You just have to kind of just read the description, and it would be good to go. Uh, but what is important is that you understand where the data is stored and how the whole thing works. So this is a single point portal. So whether you are creating, whether you are consuming, your entry is the login screen which you came in from. So let me log out and log in again. So if you have created a user who is just a viewer of data, he still logs in from here with viewer rights, so that he doesn't get this pop-up maybe and sees a dashboard from the initial stages. Okay, but if you are an administrator, you can create, connect to data sets, do whatever you want. So these are a few dashboards, and this is the repository. Okay, this is the stuff which we have created. Say in my folder, there are these. This is the demo insight which I just stored. Okay, this demo dashboard is another dashboard which I have stored here, and something else called my cluster. So this is in my folder. In the repository, you can save it. This becomes accessible to everybody. You can share it, give it rights. You have a business app which is already pre-installed with the installer, and it has got data on finance, HR, inventory, purchase. So you can use this to look around and see how the different types of analysis that can be done. And the demo app here, which we are looking at, has got uh, a sales data set which you can play around with to get a sense of how the dashboards and KPIs and things like that work. So I've just clicked on Sales Home. Sales Home comprises of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dashboards. Did I count it right? 3 plus 3, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 8 dashboards. These are KPIs. These are graphs, and like every uh, you know a data analyst, I would say, you would like to click and drill down, drill through. Each and everything is possible. So here you can click on, say, alcoholic drinks, and you can kind of, based on the built-in hierarchy, drill down, and the entire dashboard will filter, and you can get the data based on that particular stuff which you have requested. Okay, so here it comes. Okay, in the same way, so there might be no data for yearly sales contribution. Let's look at this KPI. Now, this is one of the most amazing things which is possible in Smarten. Okay, see, other than filtering your KPI for a particular period, like say year, month, quarter, you can open this KPI. And once you open this KPI, you have the option to view this KPI from different angles. So say I'm a manager who is looking at the sales over a particular months, December, November, October. And I think that I would like to first see what's happened yearly. So I will kind of look at it yearly. So 2018, 17, 16, yes, I mean, this is how we have moved. And then we want to maybe look at it half yearly. So first half of 2018, second half of 2018 compared to second half of 2017, you can make out that how the sales has been changing. You can change the view. Okay, so you can basically change this to say a grid view. You can change it to say the trend view. And you can also put in additional filters and what if parameters to this, so that you can apply filters as and when you require. So this kind of makes it very much useful. This button will let you go into the design view. Okay, so you can change the properties here. So I mean, there are an extremely large number of properties, right from colors to complex equations, which can be set. So where you have to reach that from is here. Okay, the gear icon usually lets you get into setup, and object information will give you information about the object. And one of the most amazing features of Smarten is the time series. I just want to show you this time series. This object can be embedded in any of the dashboards or the data which you are using, these each object like this one which we are looking at can be worked on individual basis as well as on a dashboard. So let me just kind of quickly go and open the time series. So you have absolute time series, you have a relative time series where you can say +2, +1, year, -1. So this will particularly take the current time and then give you a year before that. Okay, so enormous flexibility in terms of how you can filter data. Okay, you can set the year end as you know per calendar you are using. Okay, so you can basically take the weekdays, you can take anything which you would want, and that date filtration and date analysis can be just amazing. All right, uh, so finally, I mean, I just want to show you how easy it is to make a dashboard. Like I said, that this objects can be used independently also and can be embedded in a dashboard. So I'll say that let's make a new dashboard. So it will be responsive and adaptive. So like I did mention earlier that all the objects which have been created in Smarten can be used on any device. It can be a tablet or it can be a phone, and it could be on any operating system like Android or iOS. So I'm going to put in a KPI group here. Okay, so I'm going to make it a bit larger, and I'm going to pick up the KPI group from, and I need to associate an object. Now, this gear icon here and in the other places is the key driver. So just keep an eye on this one. This will get you to property sheets where you can change the labels. Uh, Even in the section where we were doing the predictive analytics, you could rename clusters and things like that. So here, let me get into creating the object. So let me say the demo app, and I say sales KPI, and I pick up this sales KPI group, and then I say let's view this. And now once I get a sense as to how the KPI looks, I can obviously save this and make it available across the application. Okay, so what we have done, we have created data sources, we have created multiple data sets, we have created objects like this. There are plenty of, I'll run you through different objects that can be created before I close this. And we have done predictive analytics, and we have seen how we can quickly put these in objects. So here once again, so new cross tab. Okay, so a quick, let's choose the data set which we created. We called it a CSV data set, right? CSV. Okay, so let's take this, and you can kind of put, say, the year here, and we can put the sales, and we can put the state in the row, and we can also put, say, we basically can put the GDP per capita here, and then we can put a page filter which could be, say, we can push the page filter to be state, but that would not be of much advantage. So I mean, I don't think we have anything interesting to filter on here, so we're going to let that pass. And this is how this whole data set looks like. So I can, just click on this and add the summary here. So it will allow me to set the summary, whether I want it at sum, average, effective average, stuff like that. And I say okay, and it will automatically create a summary at the bottom. So you can also create a summary on the right hand side. You can do multiple computation. You can insert a column which with a computation. All these things are possible in this cross tab. Then you have the tabular report where you can drop columns and make a tabular report. You can make a graph similar to smart visualization, but here you have the flexibility of choosing the graph type as well as determining how you want the graph to be displayed in a little bit more detail than in smart visualization. Geo maps, the maps which I was describing earlier, and the KPI and the KPI group. The KPIs are also one of the amazing things. Okay, so we pick up the sales demo file here, and then we can quickly create a KPI. Okay, the time dimension, you can choose whether you want the KPI to work around a calendar year or a financial year, then the polarity high or low, and then you go into making the KPI. The KPI is the indicator which you want to really measure against a possible target. So you look at, say, gross sales and say the target here, the target, and you can set up the warnings, alerts, minimum, maximum values, or everything is possible based on full range of functions. You can create a statistical function to measure your target and the changes. You can verify these expressions and then say okay, and within a few minutes your KPI is ready. And this can be saved and embedded anywhere in your dashboards or whatever you choose. So let's go to have a final look. Uh, so we created a data source. Data was created, we could put it in the data folder, then we created objects which were in the repository, and then you have my folders in which you keep your objects, and you have the entire dashboard which you can look at. You can there are a couple of demo apps, as I have mentioned, installed in this, and I'm sure you will find them interesting. Please feel free to call our support, send us an email, uh, and we will make sure that you get back to you with your whatever information you need. So thank you very much for the attention.